Okay, so what we got here is the BRUDER D11 large scale dozer. So we're going to show how to disassemble this model so you can get into it to prepare for your build or your conversion. So here's our D11. First thing you probably could do here, if we want to get our blade removed from the model. So in order to get our blade removed, there's your blade angle, big angle cylinders here. Those can just get popped off. Next, if we take and pop out our center tie bar, and now that'll allow you to tip your blade down. We can pop off, grab here and lift up, grab here and lift up, and then disconnect here. So now that the blade is off, get her all set to the side here. So your cylinder, your fake cylinders on the front, they just simply tip to the side and they pull right out. So tip to the side and pull out. Now you'll want to keep these. We utilize this portion of them only when we do our conversions as far as the cylinders themselves. After we've got our blade and blade cylinders removed from our model, the next thing I like to do is get all your tracks taken off. To do this, you simply just need to take a screwdriver and get at an angle underneath of one of our links and pop it apart. Now, depending on the build that you're doing, you may need to save your tracks. Depending on the build that we're doing, some of the builds require the customer would like the stock tracks, so we just have to set them to the side. On other builds, we don't use the tracks or the stock wheels in our conversions. We still set these to the side just so we've got them as backup. Now that we've got our tracks off, I would probably say the next step is get your ripper arm removed from the unit. Just so it makes it a little easier for turning around the unit. So in order to remove your ripper, they're just snapped into place. So if we grab a hold here and pry up, we can remove those. Now once you got this off, the next step, we can usually take these next ones and pop them off here. Now your lower one here, if you flip it upside down, you can see that it's only connected there. So if we put a little pressure up on either side, that allows us to get our ripper assembly off. Now, I always just take and reconnect all of the arms and everything back to it, just so I know where all the pieces are and everything. When we do our assembly and building with the motorized, the actuator controlled ripper on here, we use all of the stock pieces that are here. So we'll set this to the side. Now we took our ripper off with the back of the unit. Now our next step here is I usually take off our track drive assembly here, like with our gears, with our blade arms. In order to do that, if you flip it over here, we've got some clips on the bottom side, and some clips on the top side. So there's 4 clips along the top side and 3 clips along the bottom side. So what we'll need to do is we're going to need to split those 2 apart to be able to take the next part off of the tractor. So if we can get in here, and we want to be careful with these clips because we will utilize those clips to hold the assembly back together again when it's time to rebuild the model. So if we get in here, some of these are kind of tricky sometimes. Get it at an angle to pry up on it, to release it without actually letting it click back into place or without breaking it. So those 3 are all coming off. Next, if we put a little bit of pressure here, and as we go along, we should be able, it's going to be stubborn. Okay. Okay, and the last one we just popped off the front side of our blade, track drive, and arm support area. And we were careful we didn't get any of the tabs broke. Occasionally, you know, you might break 1 or 2 of them. That's not the end of the world. There are 7 of them to hold in place. So as long as you've got the majority, you know, most of them, you should be okay. And you can also glue them right back into place, I guess, down the road if need be. But so now we've got that part off. Next step, we'll set this to the side. Next step, let's flip her on its side. Let's take off your wheels, take out your pins, your drive axle pins for your idler wheels. Now, on ours, depending on the build, if the build is requiring, if we're going to use the stock tracks, we want to, for sure, we want to keep all of this, all the parts. If we're not going to use the stock tracks, in our builds, the only thing that we actually utilize out of, as far as the drive wheels, is the axles, because the axles actually are a perfect match for the aluminum drive wheels that we end up using in our conversions. So our last one, we pulled out the idler wheels. I briefly talked about the axles and what parts that we may or may not reuse depending on the build style. Okay, so if you can look down inside of here, there are little tabs, like a circular tab, and then there's three pieces of molded metal or molded plastic, not metal, plastic that grab onto the inside of this tab and hold these track pieces into place. So in order to get those popped out, I just use a standard screwdriver. Works pretty well. You know, something that's smaller but yet strong enough that you can pry and get a little bit of a little force on it. So if we can get this in and get those popped out without breaking anything else. Okay. Okay, that took those out of there. Pieces. You want to probably get the pieces to fall completely out of there, just because that way they don't get stuck, jammed up in there when you're trying to actually remove the wheel from the tractor. So that one is loose, and that one is loose. Get all those pieces dumped out so that they're not interfering. Ooh, that one went flying. So now that we have both of those out of there, it completely takes this lower portion is loose here now. Now, the upper portion up here is held in, I mean, it's going to be hard to see, but if you've got your model, down inside of here, there's another tab. And you can usually get in and give it a little twist from the back side here to twist that up. And then we'll take another screwdriver and get up underneath it here. Okay, so now we have removed one side of our track unit. Now, if we are, either way, if we're using the stock tracks and everything, pop off your drive wheel and set her to the side for use later on. If you're not planning on using the stock idlers or stock drive pieces, set them to the side just in case you do another build or something like that later on. Okay, now we took off this side. Now the other side is the same way. So we will take and get up underneath carefully and get sometimes they stick pretty well because you're trying to put pressure out on them and while you're trying to pull them off so they don't lock back into place. That one. And that one. And then our last one for that. Same thing, set our arm to the side. Remove our wheels. See if you can get in here and pop off those angled tabs that are holding internally in there. Same as that other one. Kind of up inside of here. Kind of hard to see, but this is probably about the biggest size screwdriver that I would say you'd want to try to use for in that one. If you had a smaller one, that would be better. So this one's about 3/16 of an inch wide with a blade on it. If you go any bigger than that, you're probably not going to have the easiest time getting it down into place and turn so that you can get that tab this one still had a small piece internally that we left of the, and it caught a little bit as we were trying to remove it. So that's why it's fairly important to try to get those out of there. I mean, it did come off, but I did feel extra resistance while we were trying to take it off. Okay, in the last one we got the second side of our track unit off. Now, your rear mounting plate that mounts your ripper is also going to need to come off because in order to get up inside for these rear tabs here, it's fairly difficult to get up and in there with a screwdriver or anything else to try to pop those tabs out of place without breaking your stock mounting tabs on this rear mount plate. And in our experience, we have so far we've always used this stock mount plate to mount up our ripper onto there. So this plate is held in place pretty well. I mean, if you look up inside of there, you can see that there's two clips here, you got two clips here, and then there's actually two clips up higher, like straight in behind here. Now, it's a little tricky. This one's a little trickier, I think, because we want to try to get into there to release these, but yet not do too much damage to any of our tabs or arms here, because we're going to want those later on. So, wow, that's stuck. So what I did just there is I pushed into the back, and there's a secondary tab locking the one tab into place here. So I just got in and got that pried down there. So let's see if we can get into here. Difficult. No, I think we've also got two tabs that come from the bottom side here. If I remember right. So the last one, we were talking about getting this plate removed. I wanted to come back on and show again. We had pushed in this direction to get this secondary tab released on both of those. But I wanted to come back on because if you flip this around, there's also, if you go from this direction to get in and force in, there's a secondary tab also holding these into place that you will want to pry in on to help to release that. Okay, so we did end up, we got this popped off. It does fit in there pretty hard. This one we ended up, here's the two retainer pieces that we ended up pushing back. There are retainer pieces, two down here and two up there, that also hold this back piece into place. These ones you're not able to get to from the outside of the unit, just because that's just the way it's molded. So what we ended up doing is taking two screwdrivers here, and after we detented those center tabs, we stuck a screwdriver in on either side here and started prying at it until we got it to lift up, and then went in and pried it up and popped it off. Now in doing that, we did end up popping off one, or breaking off one of the four outer tabs here. Now this won't prove to be too much of an issue, as long as you've still got, we've still got these outer ones here and these three other ones, so we lucked out there. Okay, now that we've got our rear ripper mounting plate off, the next step is to get our shell, our upper and lower shells, disassembled from each other. So we've got two mounting tabs up front. There are a couple clips on either side of the chassis here. There is also four along the back side here. And we do have inside, down up inside of here, there is one here and one here that hold our upper chassis to our lower chassis. So got a special clip tool that I normally will use for this. I am not remembering offhand where that is, so I was able to get into that one. If you had a smaller screwdriver, like I said, this is a 3/16 one. If you had a smaller one, you could probably do the same thing. We get it in, we give it a little twist to pry that out of the way. We don't want to completely break it off. You see that? I loosened it up there. We're going to go get these ones inside here next. And we'll give them a pry up. We don't want to break them completely off because we want to be able to use them to, when it comes time to reassemble the model later, so that the case halves stay together. get out of the way. You can kind of see when you're looking in there too, if you feel that they're going to hold in place or if they're going to stay out of the way to let it release. So let's get up inside of these ones here. Get in on this one here. This one. Got in, got it twisted out of the way a little bit. I think we're okay, it didn't break off. So here, so now we start coming apart there. Look down inside of there. Yep, those ones are released well. Now there's ones up at the front on either side of the cab here. Those ones will want to get pried out. Usually I think if I go down in here and then give it a little twist, usually you can pop that out of place. Okay, now there we go. Our upper frame is separate from our lower frame. And as I showed you before, here's the two that were up inside from the back. These two here run all the way down and through and hook internally there. These two front ones here went from these front two, and then we have two little clips here and here that hold into the front of the cab here. So we had shown briefly how to, or talked about briefly how in the last one to get your upper cab portion removed off of your model. So if you can get in, again, we've got a 3/16 screwdriver here. So if we can get into some of these, and if you've got a screwdriver, a hook, the hooked tool, that works the greatest for getting these tabs all removed. Currently our hook tool is misplaced at the moment, so can't show you those, which is okay, because if we had the hook tool, it speeds up the process of disassembly by, probably three times faster, just having that hook tool and being able to get into these tabs and pull them from the inside a little easier. It still can be done with a standard screwdriver, or a couple standard screwdrivers is probably the easiest, because you want to give them a slight bend out of the way without actually breaking them off. So now these lower ones here that actually hold the outer portions of this cab, the builds that we have done that we run lighting up inside of those, we actually break these tabs completely off right off the bat, because they're actually held in place fairly well just by the clip portion of it that's still there, and that opens up this hole to drop all the way up inside of here, like for when we're running our wiring to do our LED lights and such. So, and even if you don't plan on putting LED lights into there, you can still go right ahead and break these two off, because I don't feel that they are needed. Oh, right up on my shoulder here. We don't feel they're needed, so let's see, all those back ones are out. That one. That one. to be this one here. Now that should release our upper portion of our cab. There we go. Little yank, and she popped right out. And none of these tabs are missing. None of those tabs are missing in here. Besides the ones that we completely broke off, that we will not need for reassembly. Okay, and the last one, we showed how to get the cab portion off of our model here. Now, this is all the further apart I have ever taken the rest of this model, because I have not needed to get in to anywhere else that I can't access elsewhere. So I have not taken the rest of this apart. Besides, I do some modifications to this right panel here. And if you've watched any of our build videos before, you have seen what I'm talking about. If you are wondering what I'm talking about, watch some of our other D11 videos that we have done while we're showing the customers the options. So watch those. For now, we're going to set this aside and keep going here. So now the next thing that comes out of place on our cabs is the inner plastic portion here, and it just, there we go, the inner plastic driver's seat portion. It just holds into place. There's a couple, it would pry out a little bit here and pry out a little bit on these sides. It takes and pops off these clips. So our last one, we just popped off quickly the inside driver's cab portion of the model. Now, if you look up inside of here, really the next spot that I would think that you'd want to get off is just this yellow cover where it goes over top of the cab, so the cab cover here. And if you look down inside of here, I mean, we've got some black and clear, so that holds the clear portion, the windows, to the black portion of the cab. Now, the only two that we need to worry about for here are down inside of here. You can see that there's black and yellow that stick through here. So let's get those popped out of place. And that releases our white portion off of our cab. And that allows you to get in to pop out the stock plastic beacons, so you can mount up your LED beacons if that's what you decide, and it also gets you into and gets you access to pop out your stock plastic lights, cab lights, so that you can get your LED system all wired through and everything like that. So at this point, this is where we're going to end this disassembly video. This is our final one for this disassembly for the BRUDER D11 model. We'll probably put together some other videos down the road of building up and some farther work with the D11 on converting it over to a radio-controlled vehicle. Thank you.
You just watched the Custom Crawlers D11 disassembly video. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for other videos done by Custom Crawlers. If you have any questions, be sure to email us at jeff@customcrawlers.com.